Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my life story, part 4. Not too long after that shoddy suicide attempt, for lack of a better title, my huffing was found out by the foster dad, and he came into my room while I had just taken a few hits before his arrival. He immediately went under my bed for the stash of empty cans I had already inhaled and was waiting to trash later, and began throwing them at me one at a time. I was so shocked and awed and high. The only response I could muster was a measly, "Please stop throwing things at me, Steve." I repeated it a few times with each new empty can of Axe he threw at me. After he threw a ball of dirty socks at me, I returned fire with said ball of dirty socks and was immediately right hooked into a deeper state of fear, shock, and confused, violated safety, etc. by Steve himself, my foster dad. Shocked, assaulted with a pair of dirty socks and a fist, and the empty cans of my own addiction, and barefoot, I walked 3.5 miles. Hey, that's probably why I have that click. I never really thought about it, but that probably makes sense. That he could hit. He's Catholic, Irish, Scottish, something. He could hit. Oh, long story short, barefoot I walked 3.5 miles to a friend's house. This friend, as far back as I can recall, is the only friend whose entire family walked in the love and truth of life according to Jesus. Her name is Kelly Spencer, and the Spencer family from Rochester Hills, Michigan. They're all moved to different places now, and Kelly's remarried. Well, married, not remarried, but married finally. That everybody's waiting for something, right? And they really did. They loved me so hard. They were the first Christian disciples as a family that I would come across in my life travels so far. And they personally showed me the love of Jesus in every word they shared and every decision they made to interact with me and involve me and include me in things and be there for me and pay for things. And just, I mean, I was always poor. I never really had money. And it was just amazing. Like, how something so little bit as like an ice cream or a burger when everybody's going out to eat could make all the difference just in allowing somebody to feel included in something. And they were there for many days after that. But when I got there, they weren't home. Then I walked the remaining 2.5 miles to my prep cooking job at a local plaza. I had found out previously that you could place long distance calls through various display phones in the Sprint phone store located next to my restaurant. I placed 2 emergency calls, one to my sister Shaniqua, who was my only sibling in contact with me at that time in my life, and the only one in the best position to be of help getting me out of the foster care system entirely. And two, I called my state-assigned Family Independence Agency worker, mouthful, who helped in transferring me to a different foster home in Inkster, Michigan. This new foster home was in the house of an obese African American couple with an obese 11-year-old daughter and one other, like, 16, 15-year-old foster boy. But their 11-year-old daughter was obese to the point that she made Honey Boo Boo look like Mary Kate Olsen. Here I was once again close to familiar friends from when I was living at Uncle Kalik's house and memories, and I was able to rejoin my high school class of 2004 for less than a year, whatever, during my sophomore year in high school. This was one of the reasons I never reported the padlock and industrial chain they put on the fridge to keep us foster boys from their food, or the number of times they would drive us each across the city, drop us off at the local library, the mall, the park, etc., and tell us not to come home before dark or 10 p.m., and even then we would have to make our own way home most every time. I almost remember it was right before my high school homecoming dance. I'd given the foster parents a 2 month, and every week before heads up on the dance, the time frames, etc. That the day of the dance, I came home and expected there to get in there to my tux and everything and change and get ready, only to find out they changed the locks on all the doors. And even locked my window to my room that I personally kept unlocked for such situations. I was so devastated. I walked the whole 4.5 miles, stubbornly steaming, to the homecoming. I attended it in my street clothes. I spent the rest of the night after the event still locked out, barely getting arrested for shoplifting more Axe and food and booze from a local grocery store underage. Because of my drug use and the neglect at home getting so apparent, one of my friend's moms who had known me from my dare days personally took me into her home and pursued protective custody in the courts, but was later denied due to lack of social worker approved training. And I notice here, here's one of the discrepancies from the text versus what actually happened at this time. It was so bad I was like huffing like 8 to 10 cans of the body deodorant spray and just like loading my body and mind and soul with all those chemicals and seeing things that I should have never seen in ways that I never should have been ways. I probably should have died. I actually did die. One time I was so depressed, I remember just like going off the deep end and I got like 20 cans instead of the usual 10 in my shoplifting rounds before coming back to obliterate myself and get completely numb to my pain. And I counted 56 separate times. My heart stopped beating and my lungs stopped being able to take in oxygen, and my eyesight started to decrease from the corners out inward to the center. And 57 separate times, I and the hallucinations I was having around me were aware and counting a supernatural force of power coming into me, like Neo when he put his hands in Trinity's chest and restarted our heart. And I counted 57 times that this decision to not let me go over to the next edge was given to me, and I was kept alive. And yeah, I should have really died. Like, I should have. There was no if, ands, or buts about it. I mean, I was so chemically done. Like, my bodies couldn't handle, my organs couldn't handle the chemical overload and the amounts of chemical propellants in my bloodstream through my respiratory function. Like, I was a goner, and Jesus didn't want to leave me a goner. So, that being noted as one of the things not in the text. From this foster home in Inkster, I was again assigned a bed at WHSC shelter in downtown Detroit until something more promising opened up later. After a short second stay in the shelter, I was sent to a closed perimeter multi-level security campus with dogs, guards, and all for kids aged 9 to 18. This was at their Vassar location near Tri-Cities, Michigan. In Michigan, well, I don't know if you can see it on that side, but it's like right here where, well, you can't, yeah. It's right here where the thumb meets that thing right there. That's where the Tri-Cities is. That's where it was in Michigan. We as kids were forced into labor at their meatpacking and production facility, also on site, as well as various physical labors transporting railroad ties, the wood pieces underneath the tracks, one per child or even one per two children across the huge acred campus. And we were also forced to carry construction debris for punishment a long distance from where it was to where it needed to be for the length of the punishment for misbehavior or whatever. And we would get group punishment for one person's behavior, and we would have to stack up this construction debris made out of concrete and rebar and all kinds of stuff until it was like knee high or waist high or whatever, how high they asked us to do it, or until we got tired and it was time for dinner or some other scheduled part of our day. It was really awful, a lot of neglect. Not to forget the group restraints and staff restraints they practiced there. And they taught us boys to perform these restraints and group restraints on each other. And one of us boys would start exposing the misdeeds of the others, etc. They'd call it group circle, and the other boys would circle you up, you being in the center, and you would have to stand completely still. And one of the other boys would do something to instigate you where the staff can't see their hand movements or their legs or something, and just get you to move, and then they got authority to restrain you as the kids only, and it was excuse my language, a world apart. Oh my gosh, I should be like such a hateful person, but it just like burned away any of that, because when you get the brunt of it, you either become like it or you become the complete opposite. That's what happens. It's like a chemical reaction in your spirit. And I just became more tender and more broken and more